Hello, listeners, and welcome to episode 154 of the Nigeria Football Weekly podcast. I'm your host, Okereke. And yes, the 2025/2026 season is officially kicked off across all the major leagues. Even the countries where they've not necessarily started the leagues, they've had their cup competition start already. So back to the regular schedule. We've got a lot of content to talk about, a lot of good performances to talk about, which I'm quite excited to do. So without any further ado, I'm going to be starting with the major talking points from the weekend. And first of all, I have to start with who the podcast crowned the young player of the season last year, Christantus Uche. I mean, if you don't know Christantus Uche, I'm telling you now, go and learn the name. Oh. Go and learn the name. Don't say we not tell you. Don't say it's now later. We will now be mentioning, you'll now be saying, where did this guy come from? After everything Christantus Uche did last season for Getafe, hitting double figures for goals, getting up to 15 goals or assist contributions for a team that finished 13th, he then added that by making his Super Eagles debut, played 2 games, scored the winning penalty in the Unity Cup, and over the summer, he signed a new contract with Getafe and has been handed the number 10 shirt for the team. Mind you, Getafe is in Madrid, so they're one of those teams that play in Madrid as well. And he has just started the new season. La Liga kicked off this weekend, Friday. Christantus Uche's team, Getafe, Bodela's ball went away to play Celta Vigo. Mind you, Celta Vigo are in the Europa League this season. So imagine going to like Villa Park or Nottingham Forest away. It's basically what Getafe have done. And let me tell you something. Christantus Uche destroyed these guys. Like when I say destroy these guys, I mean like sometimes you see some players get lucky here or there and maybe the ball bounces. But go and watch the highlights. This guy was bullying Celta Vigo's backline the whole game. Like the physical advantage he has over these players is nothing to be taken lightly. This is someone who then has the technique to add, playing in La Liga, a very technical league, and he's showing the workings. So what happened? Getafe beat Celta Vigo 2-0. First goal, Christantus Uche, mind you, playing as a two-man striking partnership with his teammates Adrian Liso. Now, Liso and Uche just ran ragged. Direct football at its highest order. All of you that are watching us now yesterday talking about transitions and going quick. Let me tell you, Christantus Uche might be one of the scariest players I've seen like playing direct football ever. The first goal, he literally just bullied the defender, got the ball to the right wing, shrugged him off like he was a piece of meat, like get out of here, just ran straight into the box, cut the ball back for his strike partner, and his strike partner had the presence of mind to just take a touch and use his left foot to put it into the bottom left-hand corner of the goalkeeper. So that was 1-0. Now, as if that was not enough, Christantus Uche in the second half then took the ball again, another direct shot, literally ran at least 40 meters with the ball, went past 2 Celta Vigo defenders like they were not there. Still had the presence of mind to dribble the keeper and use his left foot to tap into the net. Now, as if that was not enough, go and watch the highlights. There's moments where the Getafe goalkeeper literally plays the ball directly to Christantus Uche in his opponent's half, literally closer to the penalty box. Uche has the time and presence of mind to chest the ball, literally stand off all these defenders, take a touch, and still run into the box. And mind you, this move I'm talking about happened in the 80-something minute, where you say absolute bully football. Christantus Uche, my God, what a superstar you are. Like, I don't even know what to say, but this is a guy that is ready to show workings as always. And boy, am I here for it. So shout out to him. Shout out to everything he's done. And honestly, what a fantastic start to the new season in the number 10 shirt. Christantus Uche has to be by far the biggest talking point when it comes to Nigerian footballers over the weekend. And honestly, what a performance he put in for his club Getafe. So we look forward to many more performances. And of course, he's definitely not done his prospects of making the World Cup Qualifier squad or the AFCON squad any harm by its performances. So shout out to you, Christantus Uche. You deserve that segment alone. Another key talking points to talk about is, Ademola Lookman. There's not really much to talk about here apart from the fact that it's been 2 weeks. I haven't really heard any updates on Ademola Lookman's situation since we heard that he handed in a transfer request to Atalanta, trying to force a move to Inter Milan. It looks like Atalanta have not budged on their asking price, which I don't blame them. But Inter Milan also have not stumped up the cash to be able to pay for Ademola Lookman, even though he's clearly the priority target to add to their forward line. So at the moment, it looks like Lookman is, locked in a standoff with Atalanta. I don't believe he's training. I've read somewhere that they're not even sure where he is. So it's an interesting statement, Sha. But look, at the end of the day, I like player power, but I want players to be playing football. So I just hope this is resolved as soon as possible. Look, Nigeria, our camp for our World Cup qualifiers kicks off in 2 weeks. Literally, Rwanda and South Africa. Now, after Victor Osimhen, I don't know about you guys, but Ademola Lookman is still the current African footballer of the year. And in my opinion, 1A and 1B in terms of Osimhen Lookman, in terms of importance to the national team. The fact that Lookman is not training, not playing competitive games at the moment does not bode well for me and does not make me feel as confident as we should be going into World Cup qualifiers. So I really hope this situation can be resolved somehow, even if he can still knuckle down and play for Atalanta, which looks unlikely. So it's just an interesting one to monitor, but from a Nigeria perspective, it's not looking good in terms of Lookman being up to speed fitness-wise to play in the World Cup qualifiers, but let's see what's happening. But something has to give. Something has to give. But I won't lie to you, this one looks like it's going all the way to the final days of the transfer window, and then we'll see where Lookman will end up. Now, another major talking point to talk about over the weekend is the situation of Taiwo Awoniyi at Nottingham Forest. Now, the reason I specifically bring this up is Taiwo Awoniyi is one of the strikers that we consider to be a good level in terms of being able to come into the national team. He's by no means a starter. He's never been a starter for Nigeria, but we've seen him make some contributions, especially that AFCON where Osimhen was injured and we got knocked out by Tunisia. But Taiwo Awoniyi right now is in a serious career crossroads when it comes to his career, if we're being honest. I think last year he didn't really get too many minutes. We of course know what happened to him in terms of the coma, but I think this is a player in a career crossroads. What is Taiwo Awoniyi going to do about his career right now? And the reason I say this is Chris Wood scored 14 Premier League goals in the 2024 season, scored 20 Premier League goals in the 2025 season, and over the weekend, Nottingham Forest's first game of the season, I'm so annoyed because I had Chris Wood in my FPL team and I took him out. What did Chris Wood do? Chris Wood scored a brace. Fantastic brace. They won the game 3-1 against Brentford. We'll get into that. But guess what? Nottingham Forest are not even happy to rest on their laurels. They've gone to go and sign Igor Jesus, the Brazilian striker, I think from Botafogo, who played in the Club World Cup. So he's also come into the squad, and he actually got minutes off the bench rather than Awoniyi in the game yesterday. So that's another striker. And then earlier today, it was announced that Nottingham Forest have signed Kalimuendo. Now, Kalimuendo is one of the better strikers that we saw in League One last season. In League One for Rennes, he played 33 games and scored 17 League On goals, and he's just been signed by Nottingham Forest for a huge fee. Now, this is a player who's a France under 21 international. He's already 23 years old, and by any means, he's a top good striker. So now they have three strikers who are ahead of the pecking order before... Oh, wow, did I say order? Wow, order before Taiwo Awoniyi is Yoruba and me. Anyway, the whole point is Taiwo Awoniyi is now the fourth choice striker at Nottingham Forest. It's all well and good them showing you love and they tell you how you're an important part of the team, but it really looks like he's going to struggle for minutes this season if Wood continues like this. Even with Nottingham Forest being promoted to the Europa League, it's likely they may play Kalimuendo or Igor Jesus in one of those games because those are the new players that are fresh for them to test out. So where does Taiwo Awoniyi find his minutes this season? Would it be in League Cup games? Is there a world where with 2 weeks to go to the end of the transfer window, we'll see Taiwo Awoniyi make a move? Now, where can he go? I don't even know. My mind feels like maybe Burnley. Maybe he can go and compete with Armando Bruja for that spot. But I just wanted to call that out because I think something has to give in terms of Taiwo Awoniyi's career. He either needs to make a move, or has he gotten assurances or maybe a certain way that Nottingham Forest will play? I don't think they'll end up playing more than one striker because they've signed James McCarthy, Omari Hutchinson. They've still got Hudson-Odoi. They've signed Dan Ndoye, who's a winger. So it's really hard to see what Taiwo Awoniyi is going to do in terms of getting minutes. But we continue to observe and let's see what happens in his career. Now, another talking point from this season I wanted to bring up is Alex Iwobi. Now, Alex Iwobi played on Saturday for Fulham in their 1-1 draw at Amex Stadium against Brighton. And this makes it his 11th straight season playing in the Premier League. Now, I wanted to call this out because Nigerians, we watch a lot of Premier League football, so sometimes we take some things for granted or assume that our rep in a league is better than what it is. Now, we know we don't see many Nigerian players in the league, especially for the biggest teams, especially in recent times, since Mikel left there, Moses, the best we have these days is Nottingham Forest, or when Ndidi and Iheanacho are doing pretty decent for Leicester, but Leicester also is finishing 5th. But let me tell you something. Alex Iwobi to have played 11 seasons in a row in the Premier League and continue to be such an important player for Fulham, and he was for Everton, is just a testament to how good and important he is. As I said already last week, he's out of every Nigerian player in the Nigeria Super Eagles squad, nobody has more caps than Alex Iwobi. He's got 80 plus already. He has more than Ndidi, more than Trustekong, all of them. Then you now see he had his best season in the Premier League last season, with 9 goals and 6 assists. This is a player that is developing like wine. He's already 29 years old, so we know he's already in his prime, and, the next 2, 3, 4 years potentially could be, the final like big swan song in terms of playing for the best teams based on his quality. But I just wanted to just call this out that this guy has played 11 consecutive seasons in the Premier League. I'm not sure how many other Nigerian players could say they've done that, if any. So shout out to you, Alex Iwobi. Hopefully there's more to come. As I said, can we have a 10-10 season this year? That would be amazing. And whether I like it or not, he's one of the most famous Nigerians playing the Premier League. So kudos to you, Alex Iwobi. In some not so good news, Umar Sadiq over the weekend, his parent team, Real Sociedad, were playing against the team he got loaned to last season, Valencia. Now, the main reason why I wanted to mention this is Real Sociedad, he was not in their squad at all. It's a very interesting situation to look at because he wasn't that bad at Valencia, to be fair, but they didn't think he did good enough for him to be kept on. We also know that Valencia have a lot of money issues, which is why they had to sell Mosquera to Arsenal, for example. But he's clearly out of favor at Real Sociedad. Valencia don't want him. We know that La Liga is where he does his best work. So could there be other teams on the offing looking to sign him? Umar Sadiq is one of those players that's also already, I think he's about to be 29. So he's nowhere near as young as we thought he was, or we think he is, so to speak. So where next? We already know strikers are one of the most stacked up spots in the Nigeria team. Can Umar Sadiq even find a way to even come back into contention? He needs to revive his career. So let's see what happens. But I think it's worth calling out that he needs to sort out his situation over the next 2 weeks, because this year is going to be a very pivotal year for him if he wants to ever wear the Super Eagles jersey again. Sadly, Cyriel Dessers, who was looking like he could be a shoo-in for the World Cup Qualifiers or AFCON, sadly got injured, and it's come at a very unfortunate time. As I said, camp for World Cup Qualifiers starts in 2 weeks' time, and he could easily have been in the squad as one of the 3 strikers that have made it. To know Sime is already there by default, but when you look at the way Boniface and some other people are playing, you have to admit that the other 2 spots, and we know Nigeria like to even call up 4 strikers, all the other spots are up for grabs. But unfortunately, he did not play this weekend, and that was because last week, Tuesday, in the second leg of the Champions League qualifiers for Rangers against Victoria Pilsen of Czech Republic, Cyriel Dessers only lasted 9 minutes before he had to be taken off. Now, the Rangers manager, Russell Martin, mentioned that he's going to be out for a few weeks, so it's very likely that we know that he may not be called up for the Nigeria squad for the games in September, just because they might be a bit too soon for him in terms of fitness. So I just wanted to mention that. I mean, we wish Dessers all the best, but it's quite sad that it looks like yet another chance he wanted to play competitive games for Nigeria will pass him by, because all his caps so far have been in friendly games. So one to monitor, and then let's see what happens with him going forward. Now, to remain with Rangers, Nigeria, because of our big diaspora and how, we keep jackpotting, there's always Nigerians that will come out from the shadow that you didn't know about, that you now have to know about. So Rangers, it turns out, signed another centre-back who's a Nigerian called Emmanuel Fernandez. His middle names are Oluwaseun and Okoye. Oluwaseun is my name, by the way, so maybe I like him a bit more. But anyway, Emmanuel Fernandez made his debut for Rangers over the weekend in the League Cup game for Rangers against Aloha Athletic. They won the game 4-2. Now, Fernandez has been signed from Peterborough, who played in League One in the English League. And he signed for €2 million over the summer for Rangers. Now, when you look at the the team makeup, it's clear that he was signed to be Leon Balogun's replacement. So he's not quite first choice yet. But for him to have got his chance in the League Cup game, and my God, I saw the goal he scored. When I tell you this boy is big. Bullet header, you know those ones where you rise like Ekong Afcon. Rise. He even nodded the ball onto the ground and it just like hit the ground and bounced straight to the net. Like on his debut for Rangers. So 23-year-old, he becomes 24, I think in September. He's one to keep an eye on for now because, you know, if Rangers make the Champions League, whether you like or not, you're playing at the highest level. I do think they're going to find it tricky playing Club Brugge in the qualifiers. I think Club Brugge are the better team. But now he's definitely one for us to monitor. And let's see if he can continue to rise up in the ranks and play, you know, really essential minutes and maybe even push for a spot in the Super Eagles. We know centre-back is not necessarily our best, you know, position apart from Bassey, as I mentioned. We have depth, but we're still looking for that real next top quality successor for Troost Ekong, so look out for that. But I thought that was pretty good news, so we'll continue to bring you updates on him. And then finally, Kelechi Iheanacho. What is going to happen to Kelechi Iheanacho? Even though he scored in preseason for Sevilla opened up their La Liga account over the weekend. They're pretty unfortunate to lose 3-2 to Athletic Bilbao. Ako Adams, Nigeria striker, started the game, played 90 minutes, and we saw Cyriel Dessers also play 45 minutes in this game. But Iheanacho was nowhere to be seen in the squad, which tells me that he's surplus to requirements for Sevilla. So what's going to happen in the next 2 weeks? The transfer window closes in exactly 2 weeks from today. Today is the 18th of August, so 2 more weeks. Where will Iheanacho end up at? I can't even say I think he's better in Championship anymore because we saw how he stunk up the place playing for Middlesbrough last season. I mean, that was really shameful, you know. I think he scored 1 goal in his entire loan to Middlesbrough. Mind you, he's back in England, should have been settled, but something is just not working with Iheanacho. And I really think that if he's not careful, he really could drop out of the limelight entirely. I think at this moment in time, his chances of being called up for a World Cup qualifier or AFCON are slim to none. But unless some Hail Mary works out for him and he could somehow save his career, because we know people respect him as someone who's been in the squad for a while. But ultimately, football is a meritocracy. If you're not playing well, you don't get called up. If you're not even getting any minutes, you're not getting called up. So I think Iheanacho is a big one for us to watch and monitor over the coming weeks. So that's it in terms of the major talking points. As I said, it's been the start of the footballing weekend. The Premier League started this weekend. The La Liga started this weekend, and League One started this weekend. Germany and Italy are yet to kick off their leagues. Those will be starting this coming weekend. But in Germany, the DFB Pokal did kick off, involving all their big teams except Stuttgart and Bayern Munich. And in Italy, the Coppa Italia kicked off, which means that all the teams below the top 6 had to play games, including AC Milan and Samuel Chukwueze, whereas the likes of Dele-Bashiru at Lazio or Lookman at Atalanta were able to avoid playing Coppa Italia games in this round because of how well they performed in the league last season. Moving on to a new concept and section that we're going to be introducing for the new season called the Super Eagles Index. Now, the whole idea about this index is to mention what players are hot and what players are not hot at the moment. Now, the reason for this, as I said, we've got a World Cup qualifier taking place in literally just over 2 weeks. Camp for Nigeria opens in 2 weeks' time. We have 4 World Cup qualifiers to prosecute over the next 2 months. So by this time in October, we'll know whether the Super Eagles have made it to the World Cup or not. As if that's not enough, we also have AFCON starting from December 24th, where Nigeria will be playing against Uganda, Tanzania, and Tunisia. So all is in play, guys. Everything is in play when it comes to the Super Eagles. So we have to be monitoring how well our players are performing, both the good and the bad. So we're going to be doing this index. Who's hot and who's not? Or we can say who's hot and who's cold. So starting with who's hot, I've already spent, 5 minutes praising him today. Christantus Uche. I mean, my word. What I also like about Christantus Uche is I think in the national team, we don't have many players with the same type of profile Christantus Uche has. Now, physically, he's a specimen of a human being. Very fast, very big, very strong. But we know that that's not what gets you into these positions. Technically, this is a player that can play as a striker. He can play as a second striker. He can play as a cam. He can play as a central midfielder. He can even play on the wing. and play to a decent level. For his club, he plays very direct football and he's been given the keys of their attack, which is clear to see. Mind you, before last season, he'd never really played in the top 5 league in his career and managed to still crash 15 goals plus assists contributed for a Getafe team that finished 13th. This is a player that is absolutely destined for the top. He is going to come to the Premier League whether anybody likes or not. In fact, I think this year, depending on how things go with Getafe and Nigeria, if we make the World Cup, for example, on AFCON, and this guy can show his talent at AFCON and the World Cup, Getafe know that they're getting a big bag after the World Cup. Yes, we know it's unlikely Nigeria will make the World Cup, but even if we don't make the World Cup, I really think he's got one more season in La Liga, especially playing for Getafe. Or let me say for Getafe, because he could move to Atletico Madrid, one of the bigger or better teams in the league, so to speak. But let me tell you guys something. Christantus Uche, already game week 1, goal and assist. He's as hot as anybody can be. If you even take into account the last 2-3 games for the Super Eagles, he played well against Russia, scored the winning penalty against Jamaica, and he's definitely here to stay. So right now, I could definitely see Christantus Uche getting called up for the World Cup qualifiers. In fact, I would even start him right now, especially when you look at the fact that the Lookmans of the world are having issues with their clubs. Dele-Bashiru is not necessarily starting for his club yet, and we're still not sure where Iwobi will play for the Super Eagles. So Christantus Uche, in my opinion, is the hottest right now on that index. Second hottest and one of the mainstays of the Nigeria team. For this week, I have to praise Ola Aina. Ola Aina, we know how incredible of a season he had last season was. You know, he could have been in the team of the year for the Premier League, if not for the final 2-3 months, because he was even injured for the last few games of the season. Ola Aina is the guaranteed bona fide starting right back for the Super Eagles. Bona fide starting right back for Nottingham Forest. They started the season beating Brentford 3-1. The goal they conceded was even a penalty by Brentford. So their defense looks just as sharp as last season. They didn't lose anyone in their back line. Matt Sells is still there. Murillo is still there. Milenkovic is still there. Neko Williams is still there at left back. And Ola Aina just acted like there wasn't even a summer. Straight back to business. Nottingham Forest looks so good, man. And their starting fixtures for the first 6 games are really quality. So we just may see them push yet again for the top 6. We even thought they could make the Champions League. But the point here is Ola Aina had yet another good game and he will be in the team no matter what. But I love when a player comes and shows workings yet again in the new season. So I think Ola Aina is one of the hotter people on the index right now. Now, this one is all about context. I think another player who I would consider hot on the index is Frank Onyeka. Now, Frank Onyeka, you'll all remember from the last AFCON, was one of the best players for Nigeria. Him and Iwobi in the middle of the park. Remember, indeed he was injured, so he didn't play in AFCON. Frank Onyeka had a superb AFCON. He was still at Brentford at that time, but we know last season he fell out of favour with Thomas Frank, so he got loaned out to Aalborg in Germany, where he played all their games, was a mainstay, especially when they had such a good defence. Now, this season, we were unsure where he's going to play or what's going to happen with Frank Onyeka. But on a positive note, the reason why I'm adding him to the hot index is we saw him come off the bench yesterday for Brentford and actually play at least 20 minutes for Brentford in their 3-1 loss to Nottingham Forest. Now, when you think about our central midfield options and the depth of options we've got, Frank Onyeka is still a very important player for the national team, whether we like it or not. Yes, we want a few other people to come and declare for Nigeria, whether it's Ugochukwu or other centre mids around, but we have to work with what we've got. I would say Onyeka and Ndidi are still my starting pair, but there's moments where if Onyeka plays, nobody complains, you know. So we have to look at these things well. So it's really a good sign. And the more Nigerian players we have playing in the Premier League, the better. Brentford treated us so well when we went to watch the Ghana and Jamaica games this year. So they're a team that I'm happy to have a Nigerian player and the fact that he played. Although it must be said that Brentford are really going to struggle this season unless they make some real quality signings. They've signed Dango Atara from Bournemouth. Let's see if Atara can emulate his fellow Africans, Wissa and Buemo, by getting close to 20 league goals in the season. And I think he has potential. Now, for fun fact trivia, Dango Atara was a player who played in the same Lorient team as Terem Murphy and Enzo Lefi, who plays at Sunderland. They were like the top 3 along with Armand Lorient, who went to Sassuolo. The whole reason why I bring this up is remember when Terem Murphy was first hot, scoring 15 goals in League One. Waitara is one of those players that almost matched his total. So there's a player in Waitara that can literally almost explode, is what I'm trying to say. So let's see what happens with the boys at Brentford. And finally, for me, another player to just add onto the hot index, simply because of the depth of options we have at left back. Zedu Sanusi played a league game for Porto last week. You heard me correctly. Zedu Sanusi played a game for Porto last week. I don't think we can overdo how important this is that Zedu Sanusi played a game. Let me tell you, Zedu Sanusi has been a player that has been struggling for fitness to even feel like a footballer yet again. And you can't even imagine what that feels like for a player, honestly. But the good news is, after his long injury absences, he did play. How many minutes did he even play? So I know the exact. 35 minutes for Porto last week as they beat Vitória Guimarães 3-0 on Monday. Now, the next game, Porto, they will play in the league tonight against Gil Vicente, who just got promoted. And I'm very keen to see whether Sanusi gets some more minutes today. Now, if he does, that's a good sign because, yes, we have Felix Agu and we have Bruno Yemachi. But I think the more competition we have in these places, the better for us. You know, you could even argue that if Sanusi does well, between Sanusi and Yemachi and Agu, we have more options at left back than even right back with Ola and Albert or Sai Samuel. Charnebui is playing in Serie B, so as far as I'm concerned, he's not going to be looked at for the main time. But I just wanted to call that out for another really good performance, mainly in terms of hot index and making the squad. It's a good sign for Zedu Sanusi. Now, who did it not look good for? First of all, I'll say Lookman, because we're still not sure what's going to happen with his club football. We know that he's an automatic pick and starter for the national team, but you have to still be fit as a player to play football games. So if you're not training and you're not playing competitive games, that is obviously going to count against you. Now, the good news is Moses Simon played for Paris FC, so it's not as if we're exactly super desperate on the left wing, but we of course know what Lookman brings to the table when it comes to Nigeria, especially when it comes to scoring decisive goals. And Chukwueze has started on the bench yet again, so it's a tough one in that front. But let's see what happens with Ademola Lookman. Now, another person, as I just said, Chukwueze, I think we have to say he's not hot at the moment. Now, the reason for saying this is AC Milan played against Bari in the Coppa Italia yesterday. Was here on Saturday night, and they beat Bari 2-0, courtesy of a goal by Rafael Leao, good header, and Christian Pulisic, 2-0. Now, Samuel Chukwueze did not even get a single minute off the bench in a Coppa Italia game against a Serie B team like Bari. Now, I don't know about you guys, but that's not a good sign. To not even get 10 minutes, that's a problem. So it looks like we may see some similar problems for Chukwueze that he had last season, but look, there's still time for things to change. It's only been one game week. But of course, he can't be hot on the index based on that. Another person who did not see any minutes for his club side this weekend, despite the expectations we have for him, Victor Boniface. Victor Boniface saw his Leverkusen team go and play in the DFB Pokal. For you to play a third division team, and we saw Nathan Tella start, we saw Patrick Schick start and even score. Now, Boniface was an unused sub in this game, and I think that's what worries me the most. Ten Hag's first competitive game, they won the game 4-0. We saw Nathan Tella start the game as a left wing back, which is quite interesting. But Boniface, I love to see him doing his content in terms of podcasts and all this. But Boniface needs to remember his primary job in this life right now is to be a football player. That is literally your job, Victor Boniface. So when you're not getting any minutes, I don't know about you guys, but that's not exactly a good sign. You know, we need Victor Boniface playing games. If Victor Boniface is not playing games, it's not a good sign. You know, it's becoming more of a problem, is basically the point I'm trying to make with Boniface. Because if he's not even getting minutes in a DFB Pokal game, that's not a good sign. Patrick Schick continues to score, continues to lead the line, and we're not really sure where that puts Boniface at the moment. So if he wants to play in the World Cup rather than complain that he's going to leave Super Eagles when he has not scored any goal in 13 caps, he better fix up, look sharp. What's Dizzy Rascal? Because it's not looking good, bruv. I'm telling you. And then finally, Tola Kodare is another person to just watch who's slightly going cold at the moment. Now, the Belgian League has been going for the past 3 weeks. He's been called up for the past Super Eagles games, and of course, he scored in our last Super Eagles game against Russia. It was his first goal for the national team. But Even though he was the top goal scorer in Belgium, this season so far, he's been on the bench for every single game for Genk. Now, to be fair to him, he did score in one of these games off the bench, which they still lost. But it's not looking as good as last season started. I'm not really sure why the coach is not starting him. I mean, if he was top goal scorer, then who the hell can be starting ahead of him? But right now, so far, it looks like Genk are just struggling slightly in terms of, their start to the season. They've also got Europa League qualifiers to play. So maybe that's affecting their preparation and just their ability to juggle, two competitions, especially these kind of teams that are not Club Brugge, who are used to playing in double leagues or, Saint-Gilloise, for example. So that's one to monitor, but let's see if he can force his way back into the starting lineup and play pretty good minutes for his club. So that's it in terms of Super Eagles Index. Please let me know what you think about the new feature. Any players that you think that we're not looking at who should be part of the index, or someone who you think has performed really poorly, please let me know in the comments. Let me know who your favorite Nigerian player performance was over the weekend as well. But now back to the regular schmegular schedule, going through player reviews. Of course, Premier League, I already spoke about Aina performing really well over the weekend, as well as Taiwo Awoniyi not playing any minutes. Nottingham Forest beat Brentford 3-1 on Sunday yesterday. Their next game in the Premier League will be against Crystal Palace away on Sunday. So that should be a tasty tie between two teams who would consider themselves to be two of the better teams in the Premier League outside of the top six, to be honest. Also, the Fulham boys did not lose on Saturday. Now, Fulham, Iwobi and Bassey always start games. We know that one for free. And what did they do over the weekend? They started the Premier League season with a draw at the Amex Stadium. Now, the game against Brighton, they were about to lose the game 1-0 up until the final minute of the game when Rodrigo Muniz scored a goal from a corner kick. Fantastic finish with his left foot. Now, the good news here is that the boys continue to start for Fulham and will remain integral parts of their lineup. Also, the good news is their next opponent is Manchester United at home at Craven Cottage. If you guys... Keen listeners of the podcast will know that Bassey loves a goal against Manchester United. Man United fans are feeling quite positive after losing to Arsenal. Yes, you heard me correctly. They lost to Arsenal and they're feeling positive. So we shall see what they'll do against Fulham at Craven Cottage. I will not be surprised if they lose this game. But one to monitor, and let's see how our Nigerian boys perform in that game on Saturday. I already spoke about Frank Onyeka's team and their loss to Aston Villa. Let's see how they both get on in their next game. In their loss to Nottingham Forest, sorry. This is why they say concentrate. Don't do too many things at another time. Okay, so Frank Onyeka's next game is against Aston Villa at home on Saturday. Now, Brentford are going to struggle this season, but let's see if they can at least put up a better fight. Also, Aston Villa looked pretty bad in their own opening fixture against Newcastle on Saturday, 12:30 kickoff. So, this will be the battle of the bads. Let's see what Brentford can do against Aston Villa. And then finally, Sunderland beat West Ham 3-0. As you all know, shout out to Granit Xhaka, Arsenal boy. The Nigerian player I mentioned, Ahmed Abdullahi, the young 21-year-old, he was not on the bench. But I just wanted to call this out there. Let's see if he could break into the squad for some of the League Cup games or not, or even some of these Premier League games. At the moment, it looks like Mayenda and Mark Guehi are the top two strikers for the coach, Lebris. But I just wanted to call this out so we can monitor them. Somehow, Sunderland are second in the league right now. So if you're a Sunderland fan, enjoy those visuals because we know it's not going to last for too long. Now, other games in the Premier League not involving Nigerian footballers. We saw Liverpool and Bournemouth kick off the Premier League season on Friday with the excellent game. Shout out to Okereke, man. He looks like a player, man. Open the scoring 1-0. As if that was not enough, we saw Antoine Semenyo with an absolute fantastic display at Anfield after being racially abused. So shout out to him for his strength, but a player should never have to be racially abused for people to then commend his strength or the way he behaves. I thought it was really shocking stuff from Liverpool, and they really need to get their stuff in order because that was horrible from the disabled fan. So shout out to you, Ejuke and Antoine Semenyo. Mo Salah scored as usual in the last minute to continue his record of getting a goal or assist on the first day of the season since he came to play for Liverpool. And it was also good to see Federico Chiesa score his first Premier League goal with the fantastic finish to make it 3-2 initially. I already said Aston Villa and Newcastle drew 0-0. That was a shocking game. We also saw Tottenham dispatch Burnley 3-0. Mohamed Kudus, man. Ghana, shout out to Kudus, man. That's a footballer. What performance from them. Richarlison turning the clock back. It's a World Cup year, so we know how Richarlison performs when it's a World Cup year. Really good performance from Tottenham. Man City were also incredible. They dispatched Wolverhampton Wanderers 4-0. I told you guys about Tijani Reinders. I told you guys. I hope you were listening. If you know what Serie last season, I know it comes as a shock, but give me my flowers. I told you. Erling Haaland looks like Erling Haaland as usual. Ryan Cherki looks like he's going to dance around a few defenders this season. Just excellent performance from Man City to kick off the season. Chelsea, on the other hand, 0-0 at home to Crystal Palace. In fact, people are very lucky they disallowed Iberia's free kick because it looks like VAR are trying to referee football, finding loopholes where there's no loophole. All of a sudden, a rule we don't know about, they've come and tell us that it was rightfully disallowed. So fair play to Chelsea, but man, it's not looking good so far. Chelsea's next game is West Ham away, so if they don't play well in that game, then I'm sure their fans will slightly begin to panic. And it looks like Eze's played his last game for Crystal Palace, by the way. Also, yesterday, the big one. They are complaining that Arsenal did not play well. Shout out to the 3-point gang. If your team got 3 points over the weekend, put a comment on this YouTube video and help me say yeah. If your team did not get 3 points, man, I don't know for you. So Arsenal played Man United at Old Trafford, and yet again, for the third time in 5 seasons, Arsenal have walked away victorious from Old Trafford. You know, prior to Arteta coming to Arsenal, we'd only won at Old Trafford 3 times before, although one of it we won the Premier League title. You know, shout out to Van Viltod. But now all of a sudden, we've already doubled our win count at Old Trafford, and I'm seeing the Ops complain about how they were the better team. So now you know how it feels. You've forgotten in the 2023 season when Arsenal came to Man United and balled you off the park with Gabriel Jesus and Co. and Martinelli, that they even disallowed one of Martinelli's goals. And then you beat us 3-1. And then we said we played better. Did we eat the playing better? So please, United fans, go and eat the good performance. So we'll see whether good performance is going to give you 3 points. So magically translates 3 points. Us will take the 3 points. You're supposed to have your worst performance in your first game week of the season, because you can only get better and better and better. So shout out to you, Riccardo Calafiori, you Italian stallion. Fantastic goal. I don't care how close it was. Set piece FC, yes. Awoniyi, yes. 1-0, feeling good. And what a fantastic start to the season. And then the start of the Premier League fixtures will be rounded off tonight as Leeds United are back in the Prem, and they'll be hosting Everton at Ellen Road. So look out for that game. I'm really intrigued to see what Everton's lineup looks like with Ndiaye, Drewsby Hall, Jack Grealish. They've signed the striker for Villarreal, Tenebari. Will he play instead of Beto? There's a lot to watch out there when it comes to Leeds and Everton, so enjoy the games. As for game week 2, the fixtures look forward to coming up. West Ham United play Chelsea on Friday, 8 p.m. kickoff. Don't forget to do your FPL team on time. And then the early kickoff on Saturday is Manchester City play Tottenham, 12:30 p.m. kickoff. That should be a tasty game to watch. Bournemouth then hosts Wolves in a 3 p.m. kickoff. Burnley hosts Sunderland as well. And then Brentford hosts Aston Villa. So the Sunderland and the Villa game will involve the Nigerian players. Now the late kickoff on Saturday at 5:30, we'll see Arsenal host Leeds United for our first home game of the season at the Emirates. And then on Sunday, we've got 2 p.m. games. Crystal Palace hosts Nottingham Forest, while Everton hosts Brighton at their new stadium, which should be exciting to watch. And then at 4:30, we'll see Fulham host Manchester United at Craven Cottage. Massively looking forward to that game. And then on Monday, the 25th of August, a week from today, we will see Liverpool go to St. James's Park to play Newcastle United. I mean, think about the subplots with Alexander Isak. One thing I know is even if Isak leaves, he's not going to leave before that game for sure. So let's see what happens. And, you know, you never know. Let's see what Newcastle could do against that Liverpool midfield, especially if Gravenberch doesn't play. And Liverpool are looking quite vulnerable in transition this season already, but it must be said the Liverpool too will score a lot of goals, and they look like their attack will continue to fire on all cylinders, so watch this space. So that's it for the Premier League. We're back, baby. So far 6 teams won on the first weekend: Man City, Sunderland, Tottenham, Liverpool, Nottingham Forest and Arsenal. Let's see if Leeds or Everton could join us this week. All tight, 3-point collectors. Anybody else, if your team did not win, good luck next time, and we'll see you next week. Now, in other leagues, Serie A starts this weekend. I'll just run through it. Whether Ademola Lookman is playing for Atalanta or Inter, if he's playing for Atalanta, they'll play Pizza at home on Sunday. If he's playing for Inter, they'll play Torino at home on Monday, but for now, it looks like he'll remain an Atalanta player. Now, speaking of Pisa, remember Ebenezer Akinsanmiro, the player that played for Inter Milan and has been on loan in the past 2 seasons, most recently to Sampdoria. He has now been moved to Pisa, so he'll be playing in Serie A this season. He played 90 minutes over the weekend as Pisa played Cesena in the Coppa Italia, drew 0-0, and then beat them 2-1 on penalties. So shout out to Pisa for the win. Let's see if Akinsanmiro will play against Atalanta away, which will be a baptism of fire for the newly promoted team. As of Dele-Bashiru, Lazio were not in action in Coppa Italia, so they start their season away against Fabregas's Como at 5:30 p.m. on Sunday. As for Samuel Chukwueze, let's see if he gets any minutes on Saturday, 7:45 p.m. at San Siro, as AC Milan hosts Cremonese. Speaking of Cremonese, David Okereke has finally gone back to Cremonese now that they've been promoted to Serie A, and he actually did play 32 minutes over the weekend in the Coppa Italia tie as they lost on penalties to Palermo. So let's see if he plays that game against AC Milan. And then finally in Serie A, Maduka Okoye's Udinese, they played their Coppa Italia game tonight against Carrarese. 7:45 p.m. They should easily dispatch that team. But in the league, they will start their Serie A campaign against Verona at home next week, Monday. So I'm very eager to see if Maduka Okoye continues to be the number 1 for his club side. Bundesliga as well. The Bundesliga starts this weekend, but all their teams were involved in DFB Pokal. But before getting to the Bundesliga, I just wanted to quickly touch on La Liga. I already spoke about Christantus Uche's performances. His next game is against Sevilla next week, Monday. So it will be the Sevilla boys against Christantus Uche. Really looking forward to that game. I already mentioned that Adams and Ejuke played for Sevilla and their 3-2 loss to Bilbao. So really good to see Adams. I'm sure he's still chomping at the bits to score his first La Liga goal of the new season. Let's see how they both get on in that game against Getafe. And then let's see what happens with Umar Sadiq. I won't mention too much, but if he ends up getting minutes for Real Sociedad, we'll see him play against Espanyol at home on Sunday. Now, back to the Bundesliga. Bayer Leverkusen were in action in their 4-0 win for Leverkusen against Sonnenhof Grubashbach on Friday. As I said, Nathan Tella started this game at left wing back and Boniface not get any minutes. Leverkusen won this game 4-0, which is a positive sign. But of course, Boniface not playing is not a positive sign. But let's see if he gets some minutes when they kick off their Bundesliga campaign, which will be on Saturday against Gift Urban and Kevin Akpoguman's Hoffenheim. So literally another battle of Nigerians brewing. Now, speaking of the Hoffenheim boys, they did beat Hansa Rostock 4-0 in their DFB Pokal game this weekend. Kevin Akpoguma was on the bench, but Gift Urban was not in the squad. I'm not sure if Gift Urban is injured, but this is a player that we have to monitor and see if he can at least resurrect his career this season after all the big promise when he was still at Belgium playing for Ghent. So let's see how the Hoffenheim boys do against the Bayer Leverkusen boys. Apart from those guys, we've got Felix Agu, newly capped Nigeria left back. His Werder Bremen team lost 1-0 to Arminia Bielefeld. Arminia Bielefeld, remember, in the second division of Germany, but they did get to the final of the German Cup, losing in the final to Stuttgart. So they've carried on their impressive form and beaten Werder Bremen 1-0. As for Werder Bremen, that's not a good start to the season. And as if it could not get any worse, they start their league season against Eintracht Frankfurt away next week, Saturday. So let's see how Felix Agu does. Finally, in the Bundesliga, Jordan Torunariga has moved to Hamburg. His first competitive game for them ended in a 2-1 win over Pirmasens on Saturday in the DFB Pokal. Next up for them, they play Borussia Mönchengladbach away on Sunday. So watch this space and let's see how they get on. In League One, League One kicked off this weekend. I have to say, a lot of our players were involved in losing games. You know, we have about 6 players in League One. 2 of them won their games, 4 of them all lost. So watch this space in terms of performances. Now, George Ilenikena's Monaco. He played 19 minutes as Monaco beat Le Havre 3-1 on Saturday. Next up for them, they play Lille away. Let's see if George Ilenikena ends up playing 19 minutes for Monaco. I mean, if he can start and play more than 19 minutes for Monaco, that'll be fantastic to see, against Lille away. As for Auxerre, another team that started on a winning note, Gabriel Osho played 90 minutes for Auxerre as they beat Lorient 1-0 on Sunday. So good start to the season and clean sheet as well. I don't know why Osho is being ignored, because a lot of these players, when you compare the way they're performing for their clubs towards the end of last season and this season, I'm not sure why Osho is not being called, especially playing in League One, which is quite a strong and physical league. You know, for you to be getting clean sheets and performing really well is obviously a great sign. Now, as for the losers, Teremopy started for Nice. They lost 1-0 to Toulouse on Saturday. Not good. Next up, then they play Auxerre at home. Let's see if Teremopy can finally get off the mark for the season. As for Moses Simon's Paris FC, their first game back in League One, they lost 1-0 to Angers on Sunday. Commiserations. Next up for them, they play Marseille away, so it doesn't get any easier. Chidozie Awaziem started for Nantes, which is a positive sign. They lost 1-0 to the champions PSG, so good effort from Nantes, but a loss is a loss. Let's see how they get on when they play Strasbourg away on Sunday. As for Hamza Ojediran, he was on the bench for Lens on new sub as they lost 1-0 to Lyon on Saturday. Let's see if we can get any minutes when they play Le Havre away on Sunday. I've already spoken about the Portuguese league. As I said, let's see if Zé Sanusi performs tonight and if he gets any minutes. After that, Porto will play Casapia away on Saturday. I already spoke about Tolora Godare currently with Genk, but just so you know, he came off the bench for the 4th game in a row over the weekend. Genk beat OH Leuven 2-1 on Friday. Next up for them, though, they've got Europa League qualification this Thursday. They will be playing away against Lech Poznan, who are a Polish side. And then their league game for this weekend coming has been postponed so that they can focus fully on qualifying for the Europa League. So watch this space. Also, Rafael Edika played 24 minutes for Club Brugge after they beat Zulte Waregem on Saturday. That's because he was in action in the Champions League qualifier over the midweek as Club Brugge booked their spot in the final round of qualification. Now they will be in action against Rangers of Scotland. The first game will be at Ibrox on Tuesday, so tomorrow at 8 p.m. I'll be honest, the Rangers people are underrating Club Brugge. It's like they forgot that Club Brugge knocked out Atalanta in the Champions League. I think they expect Rangers to beat Club Brugge, which I think is quite crazy to think. Even with all the players Club Brugge have lost this summer in transfers, I would say Club Brugge are still the better team, you know, on paper. So I'm looking forward to seeing Onyeka playing in the Champions League. And also, personally, I'd rather Onyeka play in the Champions League than Dessers. Onyeka starts for Nigeria, Dessers does not. So that's my thinking there. Their club game over the weekend has also been postponed so they could focus fully on their Champions League qualifiers. And then good news, Benjamin Fredericks continues to start games for FCB Denda. He played 82 minutes, although they lost to one of the big boys in Belgium, Anderlecht, on Sunday. Next up for them, they play UH Leuven at home on Sunday, so let's see if he can get in on... I mean, if his team can get a win or a draw, because they've been losing quite a few games. Now in Turkey, Victor Osimhen played 30 minutes off the bench for Galatasaray in a 3-0 win over Fatih Karagümrük. He's still working his way back to full fitness. Galatasaray, by the way, have qualified directly for the Champions League, so no need for any qualifiers of any kind for them. Next up for them, they play Kayserispor away on Sunday, 6 p.m. So hopefully we can see Osimhen start that game. As for Anthony Dennis, his Gotsepe team are riding high. They're currently 3rd in the league. They drew Fenerbahce away on Saturday. At home. That's a very, very good draw against Jose Mourinho's team, who are riding the high of knocking out Feyenoord from the Champions League qualifiers. Next up, Anthony Dennis, Gotsepe, they play Fatih Karagümrük away. I also think Anthony Dennis is a player that we should watch out in terms of the Super Eagles Index. This is a guy that's central midfielder, starting every game for his Turkish side. Still young, and the upside looks quite incredible. So watch this space in terms of Anthony Dennis. As for Polonaraci's Trabzonspor, they play Kasimpasa tonight. So let's see if you can continue to get in on the goals. And then they play Antalya Sport at home on Sunday, 6 p.m. In the Greek League, their league is also kicking off this weekend. Olympiacos are another team that have qualified directly for the Champions League based on their coefficient. So we look forward to watching Bruno Yemachi in the Champions League. They kick off their league campaign against Asteris Tripolis at home on Saturday. So wishing them all the best in that game. I already spoke about Cyriel Dessers getting injured, and we of course know now about Mr. Emmanuel Fernandez of Nigerian descent. Let's see if Fernandez plays against Club Brugge on Tuesday, and it's highly unlikely that Dessers will be back before the away game against St. Mirren on Sunday. But that's it in terms of the run-through of players for the week. I'm going to find a way to shorten this, guys, but I really think that there's a lot of content with Nigerian footballers, and if we don't mention it, nobody will do it for us. So please let me know in the comments if you still like these long-style updates and if you find them quite useful and appreciative and you're able to learn quite a lot from it. That would be much appreciated. Now, Starboy of the Week, one of my favorite segments as always. Bronze medal for this week, it's slim pickings with all the people that have played, but I want to give the bronze medal this week to... Who am I giving bronze to? I'm going to give it to Ako Adams. Now, the reason for this is it's just great to see Ako Adams starting for Sevilla. Yes, they lost 3-2 to Athletic Bilbao, but it was a tough game at San Mames. Now, Ako Adams is one of those strikers that I think could even have the Boniface potential. When you look at how well he played for Montpellier before they started playing really badly, his move to Sevilla in January did not go that well because he was injured. But for him to start the season and be the starting striker, played on 90 minutes, really good in his link-up play as well, and also a very good team player, I think it must be commended in terms of how he performed. Mind you, he also got an assist in this game, so that's why I wanted to call this out. So shout out to you, Ako Adams. Get an assist, played 90 minutes, and looks like his injury problems are behind him, and he can go forward and continue to shine and flourish for Sevilla. Now, silver medal this week, Ola, I know, no need to talk too much. I've already praised him a lot. But yet again, the Nottingham Forest defense looks like they've not missed any steps. They've just carried on from where they continued last season. And honestly, just solid all-round performance from Ola, I know. The whole back line, very, very hard to get past. It wasn't as attacking as you necessarily expect, but already formed quite a good relationship with Dan Ndoye, the new right winger who actually scored on his debut. Fantastic header. So, Ola, I know the only reason they didn't keep a clean sheet was because they considered a penalty. But great overall display from Ola, I know, and fantastic to see for the Super Eagles, especially with qualifiers coming soon. Now, the gold medal this week is very simple. It's who I started the podcast talking about, Christantus Uche. For the second season in a row, he has scored on the opening day. He also got an assist in this game, as I told you. Just a flat track bully and also a technician. Just a fantastic performance. Man of the match for Getafe. Bodelas is happy. Nigerians are happy. Getafe supporters are happy. Whole of West Africa is happy. Premier League scouts are even happy. Trust me, because this guy definitely has his guys playing the league. So congratulations, Christantus Uche. You are my star boy of the week. And finally, to round up the podcast with the ones to watch for the week, starting with the qualifiers, as I've already mentioned. Tomorrow sees Cyriel Dessers Rangers go against Rafa Hedika's Club Brugge in the Champions League final round of qualification. We'll also see Red Star Belgrade's Peter Onyeka go up against Paphos FC, who are a Cypriot team. They've also signed David Luiz and a few interesting players. Go and look at their squad if you're intrigued. And then on Wednesday, we'll see another Nigerian winger, Philip Otele, who plays for FC Basel of Switzerland, play against Copenhagen of Denmark for a spot in the Champions League. So watch this space. On Thursday, we'll then see Tolera Godari and Hirasaur's Genk go away to play Lech Poznan in terms of Europa League qualification. And then on Saturday, big boys playing games. Nathan Tella and Victor Boniface's Leverkusen will be hosting Gift Urban and Kevin Akpoguma's Hoffenheim 2:30 p.m. kickoff. We'll see Frank Onyeka's Brentford host Aston Villa in a 3 p.m. kickoff on Saturday. Moses Simon's Paris FC, after losing over the weekend to Angers, they get to play Marseille away. Mind you, Marseille also lost their first game of the season, so they will be in for blood. So watch that game. That's at 4 p.m. And then we'll see Teremophi's Nice go up against Gabriel Osho's Auxerre Literally, Murphy versus Gabriel Ocho. Let's see who performs the best at 6 p.m. And then we'll see Samuel Chukwueze's AC Milan open their Serie account playing against David Okereke's Cremonese, 7:45 p.m. on Saturday. As for Sunday, Aina and Taiwo Awoniyi's Nottingham Forest go away to play Crystal Palace at Sellers Park, 2 p.m. kickoff. And then at 4:30 p.m. kickoff, we'll see the Nigerian boys at Fulham, Bassey and Alex Iwobi's team host Manchester United at Craven Cottage in the big Super Sunday game. Dele-Bashiru's Lazio go away to Cesc Fabregas's Como to open their league campaign at 5:30 p.m. And let's see if Victor Osimhen starts his first game of the season for Galatasaray away against Kayserispor at 6 p.m. Finally, let's see if Ademola Lookman is in action for Atalanta when they play Pizza at 7:45 p.m. And then on Monday, to round up all the football, we will see Ako Adams and Chidera Ejuke's Sevilla play against Rave of the Moment Christantus Uche and his coach Bodelas' Getafe in an 8:30 p.m. kickoff on Monday. So that's it for this episode of the podcast. Very long one, but the content was content. Let me know what you think and your thoughts on the new content, the new features, the new Super Eagles Index. Let me know your thoughts on the players we've mentioned. Who are you looking forward to watching this week? What hopes do you have for our players over the season, as it's just the first weekend that's gone? Who do you think has a shot to making the Super Eagles squad, which will be announced within the next fortnights, within the next 2 weeks? I want to hear it all. Once again, I'm your host, Okereke. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe on YouTube or any other platform where you're watching this content. We appreciate all our listeners. We've now crossed 3,500 subscribers. Remember, we're on the road to mission 10,000 subscribers. That's what we're trying to get to by the end of this year. We'll have a mini goal of reaching 5,000 first, but honestly, the way you guys have allowed the channel to grow and elevate, I believe it is very possible. So thanks for supporting, and I'll see you on next week's episode where we run through all the performances and get closer to seeing who will be named in the Nigeria squad for our games against Rwanda and South Africa. Peace out, enjoy the football, take care.
Thanks for watching this video. Please like, share, subscribe, and click the bell to get a notification whenever we drop a video. You can also find our social media channels listed below. And of course, up Super Eagles and Nigerian, they ever carry last.